to keep them so that we can go to Q&A at the end. On the Q&A, either you can unmute yourselves and ask the questions from our members in the panel, or you can post your question in the chat box where I will moderate and direct that question accordingly. With that out of the way, I would like to shift some announcements in the first quarter. I think most of all of you are aware of this announcement. Kim, you can join the next, if you can go to the next slide. As we discussed in our last meeting as well, we disposed our mini hydro business where we sold Voltrim Energy to Aken Spence. We had effective holding of 60%, and that transaction was valued at 900 million. Early first quarter, we also did a subdivision of shares 3:1. The primary objective of the subdivision was to increase liquidity in the exchange for the Sun shares. During the quarter, on the agribusiness side, we also raised capital for our dairy business via private placement. So we raised approximately $2 million from SBI Japan in return for an 11% stake in Whatever Dairy Limited. So the proceeds obviously will go for the expansion of the farm operations in Whatever Dairy. Before moving on, I would like to introduce the rest of the panel today from Sunshine Holdings. I have here with me Mr. Vish Govindasamy, our Group Managing Director, Mr. Shyam Sathasivam, Group MD for both healthcare and consumer sectors, Mr. Aruna Deeptikumar, our Group CFO, Mr. Shanta Bandara, CEO for Sunshine Pharmaceuticals, Mr. T. Sandan, CEO for Sunshine Medical Devices, Mr. Infial Ali, CEO for Healthcare, Mr. Surit Pereira, CEO for Sunshine Consumer, and Mr. Binesh Pananwala, CEO for Whatever Dairy and Whatever Plantations PLC. Before we go into the results, I would like to hand it over to Vish to give you some background on the current COVID situation and how the company is managing same. Vish, over to you.
Thank you, Hiran. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for joining our first quarter webinar. On the COVID situation, I'm just going to give you feedback on how each of our sectors are performing. On our healthcare and healthcare retail and our agribusiness, the COVID impact is somewhat limited. As you know, it's basically essential service, so the impact is somewhat limited. There is impact, but it is limited. However, in our consumer business, especially our confectionery business, there is somewhat of a greater impact, especially the sales and distribution channels are impacted, and also the collections are impacted. So there is a greater impact on our consumer business in relation to COVID. How are we coping up internally with COVID? Wherever possible, we are getting most of our head office staff to work from home. Even our frontline guys, whenever possible, even taking orders, etc. They're doing as much as possible from home, wherever possible. In terms of the vaccination program, we have a max drive on making sure every single employee is vaccinated, hopefully by the end of August. The last count we took, we are close to about 75 to 80% of anybody above the age of 30 has received at least the first vaccine. So we are hoping that, by end of August, early September, that every single employee of Sunshine Holdings and its group companies will be fully vaccinated, above 30. Under 30, as soon as the government starts the under 30 program, hopefully we will be the first to go in there and get our guys vaccinated. So there's been a tremendous effort by all of our CEOs, even inviting the vaccination people into our premises to get people vaccinated. Our HR department is very busy. Obviously, the last 2 weeks have been quite challenging with infections, rising. So, and they're monitoring the situation very, very carefully. Above all this, I think Sunshine staying with its values has contributed throughout this last 2 years to various hospitals, the government, and the general public at large, wherever we saw where people needed in grocery, clothing, whatever, we've been able to extend a hand to make sure that we are sharing with the community at large. So that's what we have been doing at Sunshine with relation to COVID. Happy to answer any questions during Q&A. Thank you.
Thanks, Vish, for that explanation on what's happening on the ground. Now I would like to invite Aruna to take us through the group results, and later the CEOs will take us through the individual company results. Aruna, over to you.
Thank you, Hiran. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Aruna, Group CFO, Sunshine Holdings PLC. First of all, let me take you through the Sunshine Group financials and key highlights. And happy to announce that we have accomplished a good quarter one of the financial year 2021-2022, crossing 1 billion group profit after tax in a single quarter. Before moving on to these numbers, I would like to highlight key points which has an impact for the group quarterly financials. Quarterly financials of the current year includes and consolidated the performance of Agribusiness Pharmaceuticals and D&G confectionery businesses, whereas those were not included in the reported financials of the quarter one last year. And also, as Hiran indicated, the group has divested the hydropower segment in early April this year and excluded from the consolidation, whereas those numbers were presented in the last year, quarter one. And also, Sunshine Holdings made an early settlement of the group, early repayment of the loan amounting to approximately 770 million, equivalent to $4.8 million US, which resulted in a drop in the finance cost during the quarter. You can see from the results as well, along with the reduction in the market interest rate. Further, the effective tax rate dropped during the quarter compared to the same period last year due to enactment of the revised tax rate that we have implemented in the last quarter onward. So moving on to the quarterly numbers, you can see in the slide, we have recorded a 7.3 billion top line, which is a growth of 53% quarter on quarter. And this includes the Agba and the D&G revenue as well. You can see a significant growth in the profit after tax, PAT 88%, again the same quarter last year, which complement with the revenue growth, reduction of the finance cost and effective tax rate. So healthcare dominated the revenue contribution to the group 54% and followed by consumer 25% and agri 19%. So in the healthcare revenue top line, our CEOs will take us through, and you can see in the slide itself 54% growth in the healthcare revenue, and also agri revenue growth is approximately 44%. Moving on to further highlights, in addition to the numbers presented in the previous slides, PATMI is approximately 333 million, and earning per share 74 cents. In the last column, you can see the adjusted financials for the last year, same quarter, if the performance or consolidated the performance of Agba and D&T for the better comparison purpose. So thank you, and ready to answer any questions in the Q&A session. And Sayandan will take you through the medical devices performance. Sayandan, over to you.
Thank you, Aruna. So talking of the healthcare front, as you can see in the screen, these are some of the market dynamics which I'd like to take you through, because on the screen you can see the hospital occupancy, the lab test, how the operation theaters had been, saw some of the healthcare indicators, and you can see the numbers going up and down, because last year first quarter was a curfew quarter, and the third quarter had been the second wave where we had lockdown, and first quarter this year had been again challenging with the third wave where we had travel restrictions. But in spite of all the challenges, Sunshine healthcare team delivered its numbers and we upheld our performances. And from a medical devices point of view, I'm glad to say we had a 32% year-on-year growth compared to that of last year first quarter. So irrespective of challenges, we continue to do well in the diagnostic segment, largely the contribution coming from Siemens Healthineers and GE. And from the surgical, we again had significant performance increases coming from 3M and Johnson & Johnson. So these are some of the value contributors where the performance went up. In spite of Forex or the US dollar appreciation, still we managed to maintain our gross profit margin. And during the quarter, we decreased our inventory, increased our debt collection, and we improved our working capital and we reduced by 4 days. So these are some of the significant achievement by the medical Sunshine Medical Devices. And to take you through the retail sector, let me hand it over to my colleague, Mr. Infiaz Ali.
Thank you very much, Sayandan. Good afternoon, everybody. Let me take you through the performance of HealthGuard pharmacies. So HealthGuard had a good first quarter, but before I move into that, let me give you some context. Last year, during the first quarter, we had more than 47 days of lockdown, versus this first quarter, we had 37 days of lockdown. So in this background, HealthGuard actually grew at a 71% versus last quarter, and a 15% growth versus this quarter. And if you really see where the growth has come from, is been in the doubling of our customer count into our store. We have seen a huge surge in the number of customers now visiting our outlets in Q1. Primary reason was first of all us investing and focusing on engaging our loyalty database very precisely and very accurately, so that customers are kept updated and aware, and using relevant CRM modules to continue to engage customers. Secondly, we also leveraged our physical stores to actually improve our fulfillment in the digital area by improving our online fulfillment services. This actually led to almost doubling of our capabilities in delivery fulfillment and reducing our delivery fulfillment hours by half, which means we were able to deliver to most of our customers in less than 2 hours. So in this background, HealthGuard did quite well in continuing to engage and manage customer expectations. In terms of categories, we continue to see that pharma and wellness have done very positively and very well for HealthGuard. Pharma almost doubled in terms of revenue. Wellness, especially in the COVID-related categories, grew over 80% versus the last quarter. So HealthGuard's continued focus has been to continue to improve in its digital space, and will continue to do that. We have had a great success in this space, growing at almost 208% versus the previous quarter and 21% versus the Q1. Our ability to be well prepared in the first quarter really helped us deliver these numbers, and we are quite positive about moving forward in this direction. With this, I will hand it over to Shanta Bandara to take you through the pharmaceutical division. Thank you.
Thank you, Infi. Good afternoon, everyone. Let me first take you through the pharmaceutical subsegment, which have done quite well. First of all, I would like to just take you through this graph. You may see that every quarter in the last about 6 quarters, we have been gaining market share in the private market and have done quite well than the overall industry, where in the first quarter, that is as per IQVIA quarter, which is Jan, Feb, March, which is the latest market data we have grown 15% plus, where the market was growing at about 5%. So that has given us the edge to gain market share every quarter by quarter in the private market. You may see that the pharma overall subsegment has grown by 38% year on year, and the significant volume growth, especially in the chronic care segment, has led us to that growth. During the pandemic, we have seen that there's a significant shift in terms of patient compliance to prescription, and mostly, specifically speaking, the chronic segment where we have performed well. And we are happy to announce that while our teams were working from home, we were able to deploy an app to the retailers called iOrder, which is an online platform for the retail pharmacies to place orders directly to our distribution centers, where we would reduce the amount of interaction in these risky sort of an environment for our teams, as well as that would help the chemist the amount of interaction. iOrder is already on, and I think by now nearly about 60% of the retailers have signed up in terms of placing orders directly. And also we were able to partner with McLeod's India, which is the 9th largest domestic company in India in terms of brands. We were able to partner with them during the first quarter of this new financial year, and we will be managing their chronic and acute care products in the months to come. Moving on from this slide to our overall healthcare performance, we have done significantly well, as my colleagues spoke about. The medical devices, the retail and pharmaceutical segment has done pretty well, along with our newly merged entities. We have recorded a 54% growth in our revenues, and EBIT has grown by 42%, which has resulted in our overall PAT number to be a significant growth of 58% for the quarter. This while we were growing at a very high pace, we were able to maintain our GP margins and also maintain our cost, the operational cost, which has resulted in this PAT. We were able to increase some of selected non-gazetted products and also some of the SKUs that which are in the segment of non-controlled, or rather non-gazetted. We were able to increase the margins, which supported the PAT. With that performance, I would like to hand over to Surit to take you through the consumer sector. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I will take you through the Sunshine consumer sector. Proud to say that Waterwala tea was placed as the 37th most valuable brand in brand finance. So this is a proud achievement for Waterwala. Of course, Waterwala has been receiving a lot of accolades. For the 5th consecutive year, it was also placed as the most popular brand. And Waterwala is, of course, the market leader. And being placed 37th is a proud achievement for the entire team. When you look at the market in Q1, both the confectionery and tea was impacted by the closure of outlets in general trade. So the small outlets especially were inaccessible. And of course, having experience from last year, the availability was driven through the wholesale channel. And modern trade, the sales were extremely good because there was panic buying and stocking that happened through that channel. The same cannot be said for confectionery because in confectionery, the wholesale channel is not that active as in tea. And reaching these smaller outlets was a challenge. So confectionery was somewhat impacted, and also, of course, the schools being closed, the canteens being closed, all that affected the confectionery business somewhat. In tea, one of the good achievements was the increase in market share. It was actually impressive with 400 basis points or 4 share point increases in both volume share and value share. For Waterwala, in Q1, most of the advertising spend was diverted to cost-based activation, which is CSR with also a brand benefit. So one of the events was during Aurudu, reaching 2,000 homes with bags of essentials. And of course, this was also shown on TV and mass media, which also we believe impacted the good share performance for Waterwala and increase in penetration. Then also there was a campaign that we conducted to influence people not to forget their places of worship, because during this time the places of worship they can't ask, but they also need a lot of help. So we visited 165 religious locations, and also of course this was amplified on ATL and digital with a view to influence people. Then Ayurte was one of our innovations that I spoke to you 2 quarters back. And here we did a lot of sampling in the vaccination centers. So what we did was we diverted some of our activities with a objective of also helping in this environment. This is, of course, in addition to all the CSR activities that the entire group does. Looking at the consumer business, a good revenue achievement of revenue growth of 67.5%. However, the same has not really been seen at PAT level. At PAT level, there is a slight reduction. This is mainly because of there is a advertising expense that is coming in Q1 this year, which was much lower last year. So there's almost 80 million more really in that expense in this quarter. So this is why, even though there is a revenue increase, the impact there it is minus. Also, there is the finance expenses that is coming about from the acquisition of Dainty. So there is a loan of 1.6 billion that we have taken. So that is resulting in financial expenses. The acquisition of Dainty has progressed very well, and it is showing good results. Tea grew by 25%, but even confectionery grew by 15%. However, given the environment, as Vish said, the achievement was lower than our expectations. So, but in the second quarter now, we will be driving confectionery even much more aggressively, because we see that there is a vacuum in the market. So with that, I will hand over to Binesh to take you through the agri sector.
Thank you very much, Surit. I'll take you through on the agri sector. The first quarter had been a excellent quarter for the agri sector in terms of the prices as well as the cost optimization done during the quarter. So what you can see is that the prices, the palm oil price have been on the rise. The world market also it have been on the rise, though there is a slight dip in going forward. That's a usual trend for the year. However, the first quarter have been better than what it used to be in the previous quarter. In terms of the numbers, the agri sector grew by 44.2% on the revenue. Then also the PAT grew by 78.1% when compared with 2021 on a PAT margin of 41%. So mainly the factors which were driving the revenue growth was the NSA and also getting achieving the crop during the quarter, which have been about 5.9% over the last year. And also that the good news is the crop is maintaining at these levels in the current year. Then also that we did the mill capacity expansion program, which we started actually in the fourth quarter of last year and then completed by the first quarter. As a result that whatever the crop is available can be accommodated in the mill. Apart from that, we are in the process of purchasing from the other companies and the small holders as well. So the volumes have to move up during the Q2. The good news in the herd in the whatever the dairy side, we're having about 1,700 herd, which is about it's about 800 milking, and dairy reported a PAT profit during the Q1 of 2022. In terms of the value addition, we started our project during the COVID period in June 2021, and currently we are in the sectors of delivering fresh milk home delivery to in Colombo 1 to 15 and also the suburbs. Apart from that, we have introduced low fat and the ghee, which is also available. The good news is that this milk is fresh. It comes from 12 hours from the farm. During 12 hours, it's packed and delivered at your doorstep. So these are the initiatives which are done during the year in terms of the dairy. Then moving on to the now I will if there are any questions, I'll take it up and I'll move to Hiran to take you through on the rest.
Thank you, Binesh and team for taking us through the results for first quarter FY21. We would now like to take any questions on the performance and how things are going to pan out for the next few quarters. I have the first question from Sanjay on the gross margins of HealthGuard and in terms of external and internal customers. Sanjay, unfortunately, we as a policy don't disclose margins on the subsectors due to competitive reasons. But there are no internal customers per se in HealthGuard. HealthGuard is purely a retail business, and it even the products that are marketed by Sunshine Healthcare are bought at arm's length and then sold as a retail product. Hope that clarifies, and sorry, we can't answer the specific questions on margin. We have a question from Ruchi. Can you elaborate the difference between PAT and PATMI in first quarter FY22? I think Aruna, if you can take that question.
Yes, we can explain that, and you can see a gap between the PAT and the PATMI. The main reason is the whatever plantation being the one of the major contributor to the profit after tax, and also with a non-controlling interest of almost 62%, gives a higher PATMI for the non-controlling interest, whereas owners of the parent comes to about 333 million. So that's the main difference. And also this year onward, the Sunshine Healthcare, we have allocated non-controlling interest portion of 28%.
Thanks, Aruna, for that explanation. We have another question from Sanjay. What is the impact of price controls on pharmaceuticals, and were there any increases allowed in the last year? Shanta, would you like to take that?
Yes, Hiran. Actually, in terms of the impact of the price controls, there are two types of products now after introducing the Gazette. All products are under price control, and Gazette products are not at all allowed for any price increases unless it is been announced through a Gazette. So during the year, we did not get any increases granted by the government for gazetted pharmaceuticals. In terms of non-gazetted, some of the products, through the Chamber of Pharmaceutical Industry, we were able to lobby through that chamber, and we were able to increase some selected items to improve the impact on the exchange loss that we faced during the quarter. So actually the first time that we were able to increase was the first quarter, and all of last year we were not able to increase prices.
Okay, thanks Shanta for that explanation. Another one from Sanjay, I think for Surit from Consumer. I think there's two questions, another one from Ishan on Consumer. So the first question, Surit, is please comment on Dainty's product range enhancement.
Yes. So on Dainty, what we have looked at is looking at mainly the current confectionery segment, toffees and sweets, how we are going to expand it, because this is our the leading sector where we have almost 40% share. So here we have looked at variants. We have already introduced variants. There have been about 4 variants that have been introduced into the market. And also in this quarter, we are looking at introducing several consumer packs because Dainty was very strong in rural distribution, but not very strong in modern trade and small and medium modern trade. So you will see many consumer packs of toffees coming into modern trade and small and medium modern trade this quarter. In addition, we are looking at the entire brand architecture and then the opportunities for growth. So we have identified some areas for opportunities for growth, and we are working on those opportunities.
Thank you, Surit. I think we have a couple of questions on agribusiness for Binesh. I think the most popular would be the impact of organic fertilizer on palm oil. Binesh, you can shed some light on that.
Yeah, thank you, Hiran. We have synergies in the Vatavara dairy, which produce a large amount of biomass. So currently we are using that as a synergy which increase the organic application of fertilizer to oil palm. So the cost in terms of the expenditure will be lesser, but since these are perennials, that we should be able to hold on for a while without any crop reduction.
Thanks, Binesh. Another one on agribusiness. Do you think there will be another upward price revision in dairy milk prices in the country?
There will be upward trend, but it won't be a significant increase, but it will move up since there is a very good demand for milk in the local market, and also that currently there are restrictions in importation of powdered milk and things like that. There is quite a big potential for the prices to move up for the locally produced milk.
Okay. And another one from Ilza, is there an update on the government directive on that 10% per annum palm oil uprooting? And if that's the case, what will happen? Any update we can give, Binesh, on that?
The government enforced on the gazette, but it is not really still these are being discussed at the ministry level. So what have been mentioned in the gazette has not been practiced, and hope that it will not come. So these have been discussed. So we need to get the right guidelines on what the government wants to do.
Okay, thanks. That's a question from Rasika on healthcare. He would like to know the mix between price controlled items in our portfolio specifically. Shanta, can you take that?
Yeah, Hiran, thank you. Yes. So the overall price control came through two gazettes, mainly controlling about 71 molecules. The impact to the business have been almost closer to 40% of the revenue mix is being impacted by gazetted price molecules, and 60% of course are non-gazetted, but still price controlled. Unless the government grants a price increase, we are unable to take any increases. Thanks.
Thanks. I think another one for healthcare, Shanta, from Ruchi. Do you expect more EBIT margin pressure on healthcare do you expect more EBIT margin pressure on healthcare, or will it remain at these levels, is the question.
There's continuous pressure on margins, not only by government regulations, it is also by way of exchange. Therefore, with the rupee devaluation, although now there is some amount of a control with central bank intervention, the dollar has stood at a particular level, but there is continuous pressure on devaluation. And also there is pressure from principals, where they are also going through a bad patch in terms of their raw material price increases in the global raw material market. So there will be continuous sort of pressure on margins. That's where the business continues to lobby with all these stakeholders to hold on to their margins. So that will be a continuous pressure for us.
Thanks, Shanta. Few questions for Binesh on agribusiness again, specifically on the dairy side. Does the dairy segment intend to expand into other dairy products such as butter, cheese, etc. in the near term?
Yes, we are looking at the expanding into the market because there is a huge potential for good quality, better products in the dairy sector. So we are looking at these options. Currently, we are in about 2 or 3 categories, which is selling quite well when compared with when we started in a year ago. It had grown by about 60-fold from that time, in a trying time. So we are looking at in this year to expand it, especially the high-value dairy products.
Okay. Binesh, another one on the dairy. What is the current dairy milk capacity, and what is the capacity within the next 2 years?
Currently, we are in the range of about 18,000 liters. So that's a production range. And we are in the process of importing another 260 in the immediate future months, probably in September, October. That's where our money is being used for from the investment from the SBI. So we will go up to about another 2,000 to 3,000 liters production, and hopefully we should touch 20,000 liters.
Okay, so that's 20,000 liters a day.
That's right. Yeah.
Thanks, Binesh. I think we have a question from Rasika on healthcare. Further to that, on healthcare, can local production offset any imports in the near term? Shyam, would you mind taking that?
Yeah. So I saw another question also earlier on local production. So overall, I think pharma local manufacturing is taking on some of the sort of the load of what the imports were, but still we're at about 80-20 mix in terms of import versus domestic. There will be further growth as new plants get set up. There will be further new products introduced, but initially it'll be very much for what the government has been purchasing directly from international suppliers. That's what's getting sort of substituted with domestic buybacks. And that's the direction we say. It will take some time because there are also, in order to escalate investment in local manufacturing, we will need the COVID situation to improve for more equipment as well as expertise to come from the region to be able to set up and scale our local production.
Okay. And also, Shyam, there's a specific question from Shalini on two specific drugs.
Sure. So both the tramadol and levothyroxine, yes, the SPMC is increasing its range of molecules in that context. So there is no direct benefit to Sunshine or Lina manufacturing unless because we don't make those two products per se. But the whole idea of encouraging domestic production is supportive for local manufacturing. It's a context of, we still need to get the economies of scale and sort of do that intelligently.
Thanks, Shyam. We have a question on share to increase in the tea business, and do you expect advertising expenses to remain at similar levels? Surit?
Yeah. So the market share increase is on account of us ensuring availability despite the issues we had with the lockdowns, and also the promotions and communication work that we have done. And also I showed you the work that we have done on Watermelon. So we see the distribution penetration as well as consumer penetration increasing for both Watermelon and Sesta. So our two main brands are with that penetration increasing, it is leading to a market share increase, which is a good sign. The other question on advertising, actually I expected this question because I don't think I explained it very well. In Q1 last year with COVID was very, very low because most of the advertising happened through, online. However, this quarter, whilst May got affected, April was very good and our expenses were high, and also in June. So there was a increase in advertising expenses this quarter versus last year's same quarter. However, this is a Q1 phenomenon, and this kind of expenditure increase is not expected to continue.
Surit, there are a couple more questions on consumer. One was, do you see consumers switching to local confectionery via the modern trade channel as a result of restrictions on imported confectionery?
When you take the confectionery segment that we are present in, there aren't many imported products in modern trade. However, if you take chocolates and other confectionery products, there were some imported products, which of course the local players will gain with imported products being curtailed.
Okay. Also, Shalini has asked a question on the D&T contribution to the top line in the first quarter. I think it's about 400 million rupees for the first quarter. Surit, is that
470 million for Q1 D&T contribution?
Okay, thanks, Shyam. Again, another one on consumer. Can you give some insight on the integration of Dainty and how it is progressing?
The integration of Dainty, I would say, is progressing extremely well. We have, if you look at all the departments, the first to integrate was finance, and there was a in-depth evaluation done of all processes and all risks that are there, and most of these have been most of the risks have been covered. The high risks have been covered, and processes have been improved and are being improved. And a factory, if you see, a lot of work has happened in terms of improving productivity, as well as addressing the worker concerns, and also overall in terms of salary levels, in terms of packages, all that has been done, and also in terms of cultures, integrating the cultures. So a lot of communication work has happened in the company, and currently we are working on integrating the sales function. So we had distributors, separate distributors for Dainty, separate distributors for Waterwala Tea Ceylon Limited, and then now as Sunshine Consumer, we are integrating both and going forward, and also integrating the sales forces to work together. Of course, we will have the confectionery sales force and the tea sales force to maintain focus, but of course to go forward as one family. Of course, there have been issues, there have been challenges, so there has been a lot of communication and interaction with these teams and with their concerns, and action taken to overcome them.
Thank you, Surit, for that summary on what we are doing on the integration side. If there are any further questions, you can ask them yourself by unmuting or put it up on the chat box. Okay, we have one question from Sanjay. How is the current demand for Lonak milk? Binesh, if you can take that.
Demand for Lonak milk, the Pride of Lonak brand, it's growing every month. We see an increase from the time that we started. And as I mentioned, that we have gone into the other categories as well. So that's also great.
On the consumer side again, Surit, could you please comment on the competitive environment in the tea subsegment? And additionally, did management undertake any price cuts in the tea segments?
Yeah. So in the tea segment, actually, a lot of the small players, not lot. I mean, some of the small players have exited in this turbulent environment. So that has benefited both Unilever as well as Sunshine Consumer Limited. And the other players, I have not that been active in the market in terms of gaining share. Melbourne has been active to some extent. However, both Unilever as well as Sunshine Consumer has been able to increase market share. So Sunshine Consumer to a higher degree than Unilever. What's the second question?
On price, did we take any price cuts from?
No, we haven't had to take any price cuts, because there were some price cuts driven by Unilever that we took beginning of last year, in the end of the previous year, and therefore the prices are at very low levels at the moment. So we haven't had to take any price cuts.
Thanks, Surit. We have a question from Ruchi on CapEx. Aruna, if you don't mind taking this, can you update on the future CapEx plans and how it will be funded?
Yeah, Kiran. Yes, usually we have the budgeted capex, usual capex for routine replacement, and those are usually through the business itself we funded. If there's any exceptional capex for a project, we have other strategies to fund the capex for specifically for those projects.
Thanks, sir. I think Ishara has a question on Akba. What's the Akba Pharma contribution to healthcare top line and bottom line?
So their contribution to top line was 444 million for the Q1. Bottom line, as Hiran said, we don't comment in terms of sub-segment breakups, but it's a work in progress as we again integrate that business as well. Of course, that is two units. One is the agency business, which has pharmaceuticals and medical devices, and the other is the Lena pharmaceutical manufacturing business. And so in terms of both units are getting integrated into the overall Sunshine Healthcare sort of sector.
Thanks. If there's any other questions. Okay, I think we have come to our time also. So I think it's time for us to wrap up this 1Q earnings webinar. On behalf of the Sunshine team, I would like to thank everybody who joined and engaged with us to get better clarity on our performance for first quarter. I would hope to see all of you next quarter as well. Bye and take care. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.